again is thewayoutrrecoveryscv.com. We have a beautiful website. It was created by McGregor's Shot, which is right across the street from KHTS. I'd like to thank them for the wonderful website. Go ahead and check that out. And, if you have any ideas for any content that you'd like to see on our website, feel free to do that. We are able to put the podcast from our radio show that we're doing currently, but also previous radio shows from this last year on our website as well. And so you can get all the previous podcasts at our website. Our phone number is 296-4444. Pretty easy to remember. All fours for help. 296-4444. We will always answer over there if we don't leave a message, and I'll call you back. But I at night when we leave the site, so we're open from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And at night when we leave the site, I roll it over to my cell phone. So if you call, it'll always get to me, and I will get back to you just as quickly as I possibly can. I promise, because I know that when somebody is reaching out for help, they need the help now. And so we want to be available to anybody that calls. So again, we're really grateful and really happy to be here on KHTS again, doing our Way Out Recovery Hour. Today's show is going to be all about really, I want to talk about what addiction is, what it looks like, how the average person can sort of identify it if they have a problem or if any of their loved ones have a problem. And also I want to talk about what treatment looks like and what appropriate assessment and referral and just kind and compassionate and empathetic and loving care looks like, so that it can help you feel easier about making that first call. Remember that asking for help is where it all begins. Asking for help is the first step. I know that it's difficult. If you're sitting out there and you're struggling, or you have a family member that is struggling, I know personally, and I know from the 12 years that I've been providing treatment in the Santa Clarita Valley with many, many families, how very difficult sitting there wanting to ask for help and not being able to is. And so I really want to encourage you to make that first step. Call us or reach out to somebody that you trust and you love, and ask for help, because asking for help is the first step. I'm Bob Sharits. This is the Way Out Recovery Hour, and we have a heck of a show coming up, so stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The best live theater can be found right here in the Santa Clarita Valley. The Canyon Theater Guild has been entertaining audiences for decades with top quality musicals and plays. Located on Main Street in Old Town Newhall, CTG also offers workshops for the young actor in your family. For more information, call the box office at 799-2702 or go online to canyontheater.org.
Your building sign is essential in getting customers to your location. Feathers can help get your business noticed. They walk you through each phase of your building sign project, providing special attention to detail and quality. Feathers will give you a sign you can be proud of. Your building sign will draw customers in instead of having them drive by. Feathers on Soledad in Canyon Country, across from the Edwards Theater. Or go to feathersphoto.com. That's feathersphoto.com.
I know the drill. Happy wife, happy life. That's why when she picked the flooring, paint, and cabinets, I simply said, yes, dear. But the home theater, now that's my domain.
During the month of May, Party Homes is offering a home smart theater system including a 72-inch smart TV with the purchase of any new home at Arista, Cresta, or Verano at Aliendo. Don't wait. Special ends May 31st. Visit partyhomes.com/homesmart event for details.
The Santa Clarita Artists Association has a new gallery in downtown Newhall on 6th Street between Main and Railroad, right across from the Canyon Theater Guild. The gallery features our members' paintings, sculptures, and one-of-a-kind handcrafted gift items. Whether you're an art lover, buyer, or an artist wishing to join, visit our website at santaclaritaartist.org, come to our free monthly meetings at Barnes & Noble, or stop by the gallery. For upcoming events and exhibits, check us out at santaclaritaartist.org. We make visual art visible.
Start your finish at College of the Canyons with over 700 low-cost summer classes. They have quick 5- and 8-week on-campus sessions. Don't have time to come to class? Online class options make it convenient for you to take classes on your own computer. Incoming high school juniors and seniors, you can take classes too. Take advantage of convenient summer sessions beginning June 4th, June 11th, June 18th, and July 9th. Visit canyons.edu/class schedule now.
KHTS. Now FM, 98.1 FM and AM 1220, your hometown station.
We fought so hard, now we gotta get back what we lost.
Welcome back to the Way Out Recovery Hour. I'm Bob Sharits, and just a reminder, if you've been paying attention, KHTS is also on FM now. I want to remind everyone of that. It's not just AM 1220, it's also FM 98.1. Make it a regular practice of tuning into the station. There's some wonderful shows on here, and you can get updates on traffic, on news that's happening as it's happening, and also all the wonderful shows that take place on KHTS. Remember, that's AM 1220, but it's also FM 98.1, and be sure to tune in here every month, the second Tuesday at 11 a.m. for the Way Out Recovery Hour. So again, I'm Bob Sharits. I'm the program director over at The Way Out. And, what an honor and a privilege it has been and continues to be able to start up an intensive outpatient program specifically to help families and teenagers and adults with drug and alcohol issues. It's particularly a privilege because this is my hometown. My parents made my mom and my stepdad made the wonderful decision of moving to the Santa Clarita Valley in 1976, and we've been here ever since. I've had the privilege of going to many schools out here, some that are not here anymore. I've been around long enough to have gone to Soledad Canyon Elementary School, which is no longer in existence, but it just is an honor and a privilege to be able to open an intensive outpatient program and help a lot of the types of people that I ran around with when I was a kid. I started getting in trouble very early on and started my drug use very early on as a result of multiple issues in my life. But there's something that just took a hold of me when I started using, and I had a long time trying to break free from that. And a lot of the trouble that I got into and a lot of the damage that was done happened out here in the Santa Clarita Valley. And so I know what it's like to be in this town and to be stuck using drugs and not be able to pull away from that. And so again, it's a real privilege and a real honor to be able to help people who are struggling like I was so many years ago to pull out of that. We are intensive outpatient, which means that we meet 3 times a week for lengthy sessions, 3 times for adolescents, 3 times for adults. We include family treatment as one of those 3 sessions every week, which is different than like a residential where you're 24/7. The benefit of providing intensive outpatient is that people can still face the stuff that they're going through in their lives. Like they can keep their job, they can keep going to school, they can keep interacting with their family while they're in a treatment process that helps them to deal with those stressors and to implement healthy coping skills while they're going through those stressors. And so it's a really beneficial way of implementing treatment. Now, if somebody comes to us and obviously is too severe for an intensive outpatient program, we have high quality residentials and detoxes and other forms of levels of care that we work with. And one of the things that we have made a commitment to do is only refer to high quality treatment. And I'll talk a little bit about what that looks like as we go through the segment. But we are over there on Plum and Bouquet. We're here to help anybody who gives us a call. Right now, for our treatment center, we can accept PPO insurance, some HMO insurance, but we never turn anybody away. We will always sit with you and get you the help that you need. And one of the promises that we have made to the Santa Clarita Valley is that no matter who calls, we will take the time, always take the time to sit with them or to have that phone call with them and get them the help that they need. There is oftentimes a window of opportunity that opens up when a person asks for help, and we are very much aware of that window of opportunity. And so when you're ready to get the help, or if you're a family member and you have intervened on somebody's behavior and they say, okay, I'll get the help, that window of opportunity sometimes doesn't stay open for very long. And so we, again, have made a commitment to sit down with anybody who gives us a call or sends us a message, or any way that you get a hold of us, and and take the time to get you the help that you need. So again, our website is thewayoutrrecoveryscv.com, and our phone number is 296-4444. You can always email me directly at bob@thewayoutrrecoveryscv.com, and I will communicate with you any way that I possibly can to give you the help that you need. So let me try to describe what addiction is like. Not everybody, and this may come as a surprise, it did to me, not everybody that uses drugs or drinks, and oftentimes I forget to separate that, drugs and alcohol, because other people do. Not that I think, here's why I forget, because when I think of alcohol, I also think of drugs, and a lot of people don't do that. So I will say drugs and alcohol, although make no mistake about it, second to nicotine, alcohol is by far the most dangerous drug. Now, that doesn't discount any of the other drugs. I know we hear a lot about the opioid epidemic, and it is absolutely growing bigger and getting stronger, and it is real, and people are dying left and right, and it is really unfortunate. And we will do everything we can to combat any sort of drug use or drug epidemic that there is. But make no mistake about it, alcohol next to nicotine, of course. Nicotine is by far the biggest killer when it comes to drugs. World Health Organization puts nicotine at approximately 460 to 480,000 people a year dying from that drug. So make no mistake about it, if nicotine is by far the biggest killer. Second to that is alcohol. And so, one of the things that we can do is try to combat that thinking that alcohol is not a drug, because it absolutely is a drug, and it absolutely is a dangerous drug, and we need to start thinking of it more as a drug than we don't. Another thing that we're going to start to see because of the recent legalization of recreational use of marijuana is we're sort of in a marijuana revolution right now. Everybody's like, woohoo, it's legal, right? And so a lot of people are kind of being really blatantly using it. They're talking about it. It's real open. All the users of, not all, but a lot of users of marijuana are kind of in a yippee, it's legal, That will settle down, I guarantee you. Once everybody gets used to it being legal, it'll settle down. And legal or illegal, drug addiction happens to the same percentage, whether it's legal or illegal. And I say that because look at alcohol, for instance, right? It's been legal. They tried prohibition way back when, and then they said that's not working, so they made it legal way back when. And even though it's legal, alcohol is by far, next to nicotine, the biggest killer that there is. So pay attention to marijuana. Even though it seems like it's, the big woohoo right now, pay attention, because things will settle down with that. All that just to say that no matter what the drug that you're doing, what was a surprise to me is that the great majority of people who use drugs will not become addicts. Now let that settle in for a minute because it might be surprising, right? The great majority of people who use drugs will not become addicts or alcoholics, right? Roughly 80%. However, they may still experience some physical dependence to a drug. Like somebody goes to the hospital and they have a surgery and they end up getting opiates. They may, when they leave the hospital, experience some withdrawal symptoms, or if they've been taking an outpatient, whatever, they may experience some withdrawal symptoms and may need a detox even, but that's not what addiction is. Addiction can include physical dependence, but it doesn't have to include physical dependence. The way to describe the difference between somebody who is addicted and somebody who may have a problem and is not addicted is that given a sufficient enough reason, like losing a job, being given an ultimatum by a husband or a wife, dropping out of school, getting in a car wreck, having physical health problems, just to name a few. Given a sufficient enough reason, the person who is not the drug addict has within them the ability to stop or moderate. One of the primary symptoms of addiction is the inability to stop or moderate despite negative consequences. And so even though those two people may look a lot alike in terms of their usage, how much they use, how often they use, even some of the consequences that they're facing, that if given a sufficient enough reason, if I'm faced with kind of an or else, if I haven't crossed that line into addiction, I have within me the ability to say, this is getting out of control. I need to reel it in and either stop or moderate my usage. I know that's a simplified way of describing addiction, but all that to say that the vast majority of people who use drugs are those people right there. They can quit or not if they want to. They can stop or moderate if they want to, right? And if you're not sure if you have a problem, so I talk about drugs, but addictions come in many different forms. Gambling, sex, shopping, workaholism, accumulation, and hoarding, things like that. There are a lot of other what we call process addictions, eating disorders, things like that. Anger and violence can become an addiction. It can be an addictive behavior as well. There are self-harm can be an addictive behavior as well. So it's not just drugs and alcohol when I talk about addiction, but if you're not sure if you have a problem with something, there is a pretty simple test. Try not doing it. It sounds simple, right? So if I'm using marijuana and I'm getting in a little bit of trouble with it, but I'm not really sure because everything I've heard is you can't become addicted to marijuana, which by the way is not the truth. And I'm playing with that inside of my mind, and I'm not sure which way to go with that. What I can do is I can try stopping smoking. Give yourself a time limit. I'm not going to smoke pot for 30 days and see what happens. And if at about 5 days or 10 days or 12 days or 20 days, you are either struggling so bad that you're like, oh my God, I gotta have some, or if your brain is trying what happens more often, the subtle way to talk you into why Bob is full of beans and I don't have to take this test and I'm just smoking a little bit and what's the big deal? And your brain talks you into picking up and smoking some marijuana at day 22. After you come down off that high on day 22 and a half or 23, you might realize, oh my God, I couldn't even make it 30 days. That is a good test. Because you'll find that even though you may not be smoking or using a drug to the extremes that some other people are, when you try to stop, you don't have the ability to do so. And so that's the best test that there is. For most people who use drugs, it's a pretty simple test. For most people who are participating in any addictive behavior but are not addicted, it's a pretty simple test, right? You'll just say, I'm good, and stop. And maybe you pick it up in 6 months. Maybe you do it every once in a while, but you can take it or leave it, right? And so that is always a good test. When somebody has crossed into a line of addiction, we're talking about really a whole nother animal. Once a person has crossed into a line of addiction, it is a physiological change that takes place inside of the brain. And let me try to describe it in a manner that that is simplified, but yet people can understand. There's two parts of our brain that are really involved in addiction that talk to each other all the time. There's a part of our brain called the prefrontal cortex, which is where all our reasoning takes place. It's right up here in the front of our brain. It's this big, beautiful part of our brain that allows us to have abstract thought. It is what separates us from all other forms of life, really. It's the reason that we can build cities and we can have foresight as to what the projection of that city is going to look like in 10 years, where we want the economy to go. It is also the reason why we remember and celebrate our birthdays and dogs don't, because they don't have that pronounced prefrontal cortex. And then there's another part of our brain that every brain has that's called the midbrain or the limbic system, right? And that's another part that is involved in addiction. And that's where addiction takes place. Now, the limbic system is all about survival. Its only job, there's no thought process that goes on in the limbic system. It's all about getting me from one point to the next point on my daily life, so that I am fed, I'm sheltered, I'm protected, and I'm procreating for the next generation. That's all that part of my brain is about, right? And these two parts of our brain are kind of like this. They talk to each other back and forth all the time. And the limbic system, or that survival part, is like the go system. It's on. It wants me to eat. It wants me to procreate. It wants me to protect myself all the time. And then the reasoning part of my brain is the part that keeps me from driving my car into the wall constantly. It's the part of my brain that sends a signal back that says, hey, you know what? Maybe we need to slow this down a little bit so we don't do any damage, right? Like, you've had a couple of beers at this party and you have to drive in 2 hours. And so let's stop drinking right now. And I'm sending the signal back so that I'm able to drive in a couple of hours, so that I'm not over the legal limit and don't put anybody in danger, myself. That's the way that those two brains talk to each other. But when a person is put into a survival panic, the part of our brain that is only about survival, that midbrain, that limbic system, what happens is the farther that I go into survival panic, the more that part takes over, and it doesn't listen to the reasoning part of my brain anymore. And I'll tell you how this takes place. It happens for everybody in any time of survival panic. But somebody who has crossed the line into addiction has been living under enough stress for a long enough period of time where that part of the brain perceives that stress as a threat to its survival. And at that same time, drugs or a behavior, an addictive behavior, are introduced as a coping mechanism. What happens is that part of my brain now registers that drug as its way of securing survival. And so that's the magic formula, but I'll tell you what happens for everybody. So let me talk about food for a minute and how it works. I tell you what, here's what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to leave you with this. It's 11:35 right now. We're going to go into a break right now, and I want you all, so lunchtime's coming up. We're all getting a little bit hungry. By the time I get out of here at 12 o'clock, I'm going to jam over here and find one of these places that's serving food, and I'm going to have lunch. So the hungrier I get, the more I'm going to be thinking about that right there. I'll tell you where I'm going, and maybe you want to join me, and you're going to have to come back after this break to see what I'm talking about. But I'm going to go down to one of these fast food places, and I'm going to jump in their dumpster in the back, and I'm going to grab some of that half-eaten food that's sitting back there, because I don't want to pay for lunch, and it's really not that bad. What do you think about that? Think about it during this break, and when I come back, I'll give you what that looks like in terms of addiction. I'm Bob Sharits. This is the Way Out Recovery Hour, and we'll be right back.
Why do people from all over Santa Clarita come to our spa in Canyon Country? Simple. They want the highest quality services at prices that everyone can afford. This is Rosemary from Beyond Harmony Med Spa. Read our reviews and know why we won the Ultimate Beauty Awards 2 years in a row by the readers of Elite magazine. Come and see how close we really are and experience the level of excellence that our clients have loved for the past 13 years. Go to beyondharmony.com or call 298-8008 today for a free consultation.
Men, are you feeling tired, stressed, or just don't have the energy you used to? Did you know this could be related to decreased testosterone levels? Luckily, there's a safe, effective solution. Weeder Prime helps support healthy testosterone levels with clinically tested key ingredients. Just 2 capsules of Weeder Prime each day can help change your mood, energy, focus, body fat, and lean muscle. Feel the way you felt 10, 20, even 30 years ago. Rediscover your Prime with Weeder Prime. To find a retailer near you, visit WeederPrime.com. That's WEIDER Prime.com.
City of Hope is a world leader in cancer research and treatment. And there's a City of Hope community practice location right here in Santa Clarita, eliminating a major barrier in the fight against cancer: distance to quality care. Santa Clarita benefits from City of Hope's compassionate care and renowned clinical expertise. Find out more at cityofhope.org/Santa Clarita or call 661-799-1999.
Your hometown station.
KHTS wants to help you save money. Go to shopkhts.com for half-price certificates to your favorite restaurants and businesses located right here in the Santa Clarita Valley. Huge savings on your favorite places. You can also buy them right here at the KHTS studio during business hours. Start saving now.
98.1 FM and AM 1220.
Santa Clarita's hometown station.
Now FM 98.1 FM and AM 1220. Your hometown station.
We fought so hard, now we gotta get back what we lost.
Welcome back to the Way Out Recovery Hour. I am Bob Sharits, and I am the program director of the Way Out Recovery SCV. We are an intensive outpatient program for teens, for adults, and for families. And so give us a call at 296-4444 or visit our website at thewayoutrocoveryscv.com or send me an email personally at bob@thewayoutrocoveryscv.com, and I will happily talk to you about what's going on in your life, try to help any way that I can, try to get you over to our site and we can figure out what's going on and get you the help that you need, because asking for help is the first step, and I know it's the most difficult step. So before the break, I kind of left you with, I'm going to give you an idea of how the 2 parts of our brain that are associated with addiction work with each other, right? You got your stop system and your go system. So your survival part of your brain, or your midbrain, is like go. It's all about survival. It's not a thinking part of our brain. It says, give me some food right now. It says, make sure my DNA is going to be here 1,000 years from now. It says, get me out of this predicament right now by either fighting or running. That fight and flight takes place in that part of our brain. And so it's on all the time, and it's trying to get me through thick and thin and trying to make me survive a day at a time, a minute at a time, a second at a time. Even microseconds really is how our brains work, much faster than seconds. And then there's this other part of our brain, which is the reasoning part of our brain, kind of has the brakes in the car, if you will. And so it's the part of our brain that says, whoa, Bob, you're moving way too fast. That's dangerous for you. You shouldn't be doing that. You've had way too much to drink. You're going to have a hangover and you got to work tomorrow, that sort of thing, right? And so it's the part of my brain that's always keeping me in check. Those things are constantly talking to each other, and it does that with everybody, addicted or not, right? When addiction takes place in a person's brain, there are physiological changes that take place in that brain that cross us into the line of addiction, right? And most people who use drugs will never cross into that line, but there is a percentage, roughly 20%, of people, of the adult population of people who use drugs or drink alcohol that will have lifelong problems as a result of that. And that's what addiction looks like. The sort of formula for getting us into addiction, very simplified, is that there's enough stress going on in my life for a long enough period of time without healthy coping skills where the go part of my brain, the survival part of my brain, recognizes that as a threat to its survival, and it will do anything that it can to secure my survival. If during that time of high stress, a drug or an addictive behavior is either introduced or has already been going on, what happens is that drug will reduce the stress, and my brain will pick that up as a coping skill to reduce the stress, therefore a survival mechanism. And when I've crossed into a line of addiction, my brain picks that addiction up, the substance or the behavior, as a way of securing survival. So that process takes place for everybody, but it only crosses into a line of addiction under severe, chronic, unmanaged stress without coping skills at the same time when an addictive behavior is taking place. So let me describe to you, let me bring you back to lunch. If anybody was here before the break and they were thinking about where I'm going for lunch, I want to ask anybody to, call in and tell me if you want to join me. Right afterwards, I'm going down to the fast food place. I'm going to jump in the dumpster. We're all going to get free food. What do you think about that? You think yuck, and so do I. You think ew, you think no way, I'm not jumping in the dumpster. Because we all have a set of morals, and we all have a set of values, and we all have a set of fixed ideas that tell us what's wrong and what's right. We all have a set of morals, values, and fixed ideas that tell us what a good decision is and what a poor decision is. And I don't know about you guys, but jumping in a dumpster and eating food out of there is not a very sanitary thing to do. It's kind of nasty. The food's probably going to be cold anyway, but my morals and my values and my ideas say no, we're not doing that. But here's where addiction takes place. Let's get hungry. Let's get hungrier and hungrier and hungrier, and let's have no way of satisfying that hunger. And you can take that stress and you can compare it to any stressor in your life. Doesn't matter what the stressor is. But let's take hunger. I am hungrier and hungrier and hungrier, and I have no way of satisfying that hunger. What happens is the hungrier that I get and the lack of coping skills, the food, in my life, what happens to me is that stress of that hunger at some point will be registered as such a threat to my survival that I will do anything to satisfy that hunger. And what happens is the part of my brain that tells me that it's not a good idea to jump in that dumpster, the survival part of my brain doesn't listen to it anymore. And all those morals and all those values and all those fixed ideas start to go out the window because I'm going to get some food no matter what. And I don't care who you are. If you get hungry enough and you don't have a way to satisfy that hunger, every one of us will jump in the dumpster. Every single one of us will do it. And so that's what happens in addiction is that there's a stress in my life like hunger that cannot be satisfied. With most people, it's things like divorce in the home, abuse in the home, trauma, neglect, abandonment. Stress is also perceptual. So my ideas about myself can cause a lot of stress. If I feel like I don't fit in, if I feel like I'm less than, if I feel like I don't know how to do something. Bullying taking place can oftentimes cause a severe stressor in a person's life. Think about the most stressful time in your life, right? If anybody would like to go back to the age of 12 or 13, right? I wouldn't. Although, I don't know. There was some fun, right? But think about stress-wise, right? You got school going on. You got the social impact of being 13, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. You got hormonal changes that are taking place. You have some first relationships that are taking place in that age group. You have parental supervision. You have all the rules and all the stuff that's going on in our teenage years. I think I would be safe to say that the teenage years are the most stressful time in our life. Now check this out. Most addiction, most drug use, and most addiction takes place between the ages of 12 and 17. During the most stressful time in our lives, right, is when drugs are all over the place and being introduced to us. That is a formula for disaster right there. I'm at the most stress I've ever been, and I'm not talking to anybody about the hormonal changes or the stuff going on in my home or whatever's going on, and I start smoking pot. My brain registers that pot smoking as the means to reduce the stress, therefore the means to survival, if the stress is being registered in my brain as a threat to my survival, right? And so it doesn't matter if it's food or anything else. If I'm under severe chronic unmanaged stress and I have no way of satisfying that stress, and I'm doing drugs or participating in an addictive behavior, then that's the formula for being an addict. So, that's a simplified way of describing addiction that I think if you think about that, everybody can understand it. It's very difficult to understand the suffering that takes place in addiction if you haven't been there. And I don't like to ostracize or push anybody out. I think if you haven't experienced firsthand addiction, you can also understand it and have some certainly some empathy towards it, and maybe and certainly some compassion towards it. What happens with families or loved ones who are interacting with people that are addicted is oftentimes the symptoms of addiction look like badness. There's theft involved, or criminal behavior, or lying, or running away, or sometimes violent behavior, and all this stuff that goes along with addiction. If I'm on the outside looking in, I can think, oh my God, this is a moral failing, or this is some sort of this is just bad behavior, right? And I don't understand that for a person who's crossed into a line of addiction, that the addiction has hijacked the brain. And it will do anything to get the food, it'll do anything to get the drug. It'll do anything. And when I can look at it from that perspective, I can have a little bit more compassion towards the people that I'm trying to help. And what it will do is it will help me to intervene in a person's life or to intervene in my own life if I can come from a place of love and compassion. I know that people get angry around addiction. I know that I get angry at myself. I beat myself up over my own addiction. Some labels that I put on myself for my addiction was a few different things. You're stupid, Bob. You're a bad person, Bob. You're weak, right? You're crazy. I put all those labels on myself because I didn't understand what addiction was like. And I would try over and over and over again to stop and would be unable to do so, right? And I would beat myself up for being stuck in that process right there. So it's not just family members that look at it that way. It's the person who's suffering directly from the drug and alcohol use that also will look at it that way. So I'm sitting in that spot, right? And I don't know what to do. Here's where a place like the Way Out Recovery can come in. Is if I do nothing else today, what I want to do is I want to urge you to make that phone call. What I want to do today is I want to urge you to ask for help. I want to urge you to reach out to somebody. Our phone number is 296-4444. Call us, please. Our website is thewayoutrecoveryscv.com. Send us a message, Facebook, whatever you got to do to reach out to somebody. That is the most important step. I know what it feels like to sit in a spot where I want to change more than anything else in the world, and I don't know how. Where I want to change more than anything else in the world, and I don't know where to go, and I don't know what to do. I know what that feels like, and I know how much that can hurt. And so if you're sitting in that spot right now, or you're a family member who's watching somebody sitting in that spot right now, I know that it's difficult, and I know that it's scary, but please make that phone call. If you make that phone call, here's what you can look forward to. Recovery from addiction is a lifelong process that involves getting better and better every day. Recovery from addiction is involvement in a way of life that is all about building myself, dare I say, spiritually. If spiritual and religion fits together for you, cool. If it doesn't, cool. I'm talking about living a way of life where I have an absolute freedom, where I'm walking around looking the world in the eye, where I don't have to hide from anybody. I can open my mail and answer every phone call, where there's this absolute freedom that takes place because I'm living a life that is completely honest. And living that life of complete honesty is the recovery from addiction. So what we do in the recovery process is we learn how to live right. Now that may seem like a daunting task if you're dragging around a lifetime worth of behavior that you've been shaming yourself for. It can seem like a big daunting task. But I'll tell you that when you give us a call, you're going to be faced with nothing but people who understand. People who have either been there or they know about it or have had family members, right? You can call me. You could call Melissa, our primary counselor over there. Many of you know Melissa Flowers, a wonderful, compassionate human being who has her own experience that it looks nothing like mine, but she understands the same as I do. You can call and talk to our clinical supervisor, Brenda Way, who now is a marriage family therapist. She's been for several years, but she's taken the time to go back to school again and again and again to understand and have this huge education on addiction and therapeutic processes. But she's also had the experience of being in recovery herself. And so she adds that to our team as well. So when you make that phone call, you're going to be faced with people who know. What we're going to do is this. We're going to ask you to come meet with us. And when you come and you meet with us, we're going to sit down and we're going to ask you what's going on. And we're going to listen to you. And we're going to offer you some assistance, and we're going to offer you some compassion, and we're going to help you to figure out what is the best course of action for you. For some people, they may be so physically addicted or have co-occurring mental health issues or other things that are going on that place them, or medical issues that place them in such a position where they're going to need to go into a place, maybe for a couple of days, maybe for a couple of weeks, maybe for a couple of months. We don't know. Depends on what the severity is. But we will help you assess that for yourself, and we will get you to a place that you're going to feel comfortable in. We're not going to send you to a place that is not going to treat you well. We're not going to send you to a place that's not going to pay the utmost of attention personally to you. That may be what you need. A person may need a couple of days worth of detox, and then they can come back to our outpatient program. When you come to us and you come to an outpatient program, here's what you're going to face. You're going to face groups of like-minded folks that you're going to connect with. My opinion is that the most important thing in all of the aspects of recovery is community. When we connect with each other, it starts from that first phone call. It starts from me and you talking on the phone, and we connect with each other, right? And what happens is we start that conversation in a like-minded language that only you and I can understand because we've been there, right? And then you come meet with us, and we sit down, and and now you meet the team, and we start to build that community. We introduce you to the rest of our participants in our group, whether that's adolescent, adult, family members, and you start to hear stories and connect with people that are going through the very same things that you're going through, and you start to feel like, oh, I'm not alone. Because you're not alone, right? Addiction is the type of disease that separates us, it isolates us, it wants us to think that nobody else would understand. And one of the ways that we combat that is to connect with each other on a level that says we do understand, right? And so you'll also be faced with different therapeutic methods of recovery. So just for instance, we will teach you how to sit and work through your emotions rather than react to your emotions. Maybe that's mindfulness, maybe that's meditation, maybe that's outdoor exercise or indoor exercise. Maybe that is some of the drumming that we provide over there. Maybe it is connecting with other community groups. There are many different methods that we use. We also use different therapeutic methods like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. Our therapists can use DBT, dialectic behavioral therapy. We also we do relapse prevention techniques and a multi-family groups, multitude of therapeutic interventions that will help you work through your stuff, right? And as we go through all the different issues that are going to be unique to you and help you sort through that, what you're going to find is that you have this inner strength. You have this thing inside of you that wants to be clean and sober. You have this thing inside you that wants to do the right thing. That's the thing that you've been struggling with, is there's this voice inside you that doesn't want to participate in the behavior you've been participating in. And we help you find that inner voice. And we help you connect with other people. And what we do is we encourage each other to make that voice a little bit louder every day. And pretty soon what will happen is you'll start making decisions that you feel good about in your life. You'll start taking actions that that you feel good about in your life. And as a result of that, your thought process will change. And what you'll find in that thought process change is you'll find that now your emotional well-being is being strengthened, and your thinking is going to sound something like this. I can do this. I have the strength within me, and I can tap into this community that can help me, and I can pull out of this, and I can stay clean and sober. I am not that horrible human being that I've made myself out to be my whole life. I do fit in. I do belong. I am wonderful. I'm beautiful, and I am a strong human being, and we will help you tap into that. So again, I am so very grateful to be back at KHTS Radio. This is our monthly show, second Tuesday of every month. Catch us again on June the 12th, 11 a.m. We are the Way Out Recovery, located on the corner of Plum Canyon and Bouquet Canyon. Our website is thewayoutrrecoveryscv.com, and our phone number is 661-296-4444. I'm Bob Sharits. I'm the program director at the Way Out Recovery SCV, and thank you very much for listening today, for tuning in on Facebook, and until next time, blessings.